Well, some absolutely incredible numbers as UK voters give their response to this disastrous Labour government. I did write about this today over at hever.news. Check out the link below to read my latest article. It's completely free to read. And do head over to my Substack at hever.news to stay in touch with me. Now, when it comes to this government, when you look at the Paris Agreement, for instance, we're now the only one out of the 10 largest economies in the world still aiming to meet this. Of course, you've got the likes of President Trump in America now ordering the US withdraw from this sort of stuff. At the same time, you've got this, I'm sure this really impresses you, 218 hotels now being used by the government for the asylum system, including those crossing on small boats. 9 planned for closure by the end of March. This whole system now costing the taxpayer billions per year. The budget is absolutely rocketed because of their failure to stop the boats. Totally out of control. And just look at this as one example. An Albanian criminal allowed to stay in Britain because his son will not eat foreign chicken nuggets, according to the Telegraph. That it would be unduly harsh for the boy to be forced to move to Albania with his father owing to his sensitivity around food. And guess what it comes down to? That's right. The judge allowed the father's appeal against deportation as a breach of his right to a family life under the European Convention on Human Rights. And as Labour go along with this fiasco, don't forget the Conservatives had years and years and years to do something about this and did diddly squat. And that is why you've now got this situation, the Tories reduced to becoming the third party now. Reform with YouGov, yet another record amount of support. But when you drill into the figures in this, that's when you see some really interesting stuff. So as you go through here, you'll see when it comes to voters sticking with the party now that they backed at the general election, 94% of Reform voters sticking with the party. Labour only holding on to 66% of their voters, and the Conservatives 69% of their supporters from the last election. Nearly a quarter of those who voted Tory at the last election have already switched to Reform. Among Leave voters there, you see an absolutely massive now 23-point lead for Reform when it comes to Leave voters. Also, I think it's worth highlighting again that the gender sort of split on voting, I think this has been massively overhyped by mainstream media. Here you see Reform leading Labour by 1 point with male voters, and Labour leading Reform 1 point with female voters. So no great difference there, really. And finally, when it comes to working class voters, C2DE social grade voters, you'll see there Reform on 32% versus Labour on 22%. So Reform now have a 10-point lead with working class voters. An absolutely massive shift since the last general election. I think partly is because people are seeing, and I think Reform MPs already showing, why the party is surging.
Lee Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. This net zero madness coming from this place is truly staggering. Right. Bear in mind, this power station used to burn coal from a coal mine from less than 20 miles away. Yeah. We're now transporting wood from 3,000 miles away. We're paying over £10 billion in subsidies for this power station, and it's producing 4 times more CO2 than a coal-fired power station. So could the Minister explain to me how this is contributing towards net zero?
Minister.
Well, I wasn't aware that it was the policy of the Reform Party to reopen the coal mines, but that's good to know. Great to know. Well, I'm very proud that as a country we have moved past coal-fired power station, coal power generation, which is incredibly disruptive for our environment. We closed the last coal power station last year at Ratcliffe-on-Soar, and the workforce there played a really proud role in recognising the role that they played in powering the country for many, many years, but also recognising that the drive to net zero is important. While we're building the clean power system that delivers energy security for the future, they're taking us back to the Stone Age.